All right. Is there anyone who would like to start our conversation for today?
Werner, it's Udi. You should start your recording.
The recording is on. Yes, it's recording.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, Udi.
Hi, how are you?
Quite fine. Quite fine.
Good.
And
if
you?
I already on the screen, I will start maybe and say that I had the feeling from time to time that there is a place or a time that everything become clear.
Yeah.
And for me, I had the feeling that this place is a place of silence. This is what I feel inside of my body. It's what I feel probably in my head, in everything inside of me. Can you speak something about a place of silence?
The place of silence, from where
Yes.
everything is clear.
Yes.
Right. That place doesn't really have any location, not within space. That place of silence is everywhere, and yet when we start out to concentrate, to connect, it is helpful if we have our physical center where we are centering easiest, and it's most likely if we do that, then somehow you feel that that silence is there, or more that through that center you connect with that silence. But this is just for our mind to have something to hold on, to connect with that. But that, of course, that place of silence is not really a place, even if we may call it like this. It's just a level of silence, a level of existence where all the questions simply disappear. It's not necessarily that if you connect with that, that after that you know everything. But the question about everything is disappearing because there is peace, there is a sense of completion, there is harmony. So don't look anywhere else for this place of silence. Just center as usual, and most probably through that physical point where you are centering, you are connecting easiest with that state of silence. It's not that we have to somehow try to figure out where in the body exactly it is. It's not really limited to one point in the body.
Yes, I'm not speaking about a place in my body,
yeah.
But the sense of probably understanding, even this is not a word, of being part of everything.
Right. In that silence, you don't feel that sense of separation that is there when we are in our usual mind.
Exactly, but and then immediately this feeling is running away, mainly by the entrance from outside, the need to keep this place, the need to keep this sense.
Yeah. Then the old habitual mind comes back and says, "What can I do to keep it?" And the very question, exactly. The very question of how to keep it makes it disappear.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, it doesn't really disappear. It's simply that the attention is then pulled back to the calculating mind. The mind that says, "Oh, I have got something and I have to keep it. But actually, prior to that question, then that I goes a bit to the side. There is just the silence and the sense of harmony, the sense of being connected. But then it doesn't let go, and it comes back. That the first is, how can I keep my treasure? That, like a treasure that I can put somewhere that nobody can take it away. And the very anxiety of wanting to keep it makes it go away. It feels like it's going away. It's still there, but we are not aware of it, because the attention then is shifted to the more gross level of thinking, of wanting, of me. Well, when this is happening, then you just can stop it right the moment you become aware of. And you just ask yourself, but who wants to keep? And maybe you can just drop that idea again. And there you are back.
In my daily life, I had the feeling that I must use this calculating mind, at least for me in my daily practice. And the moving from in and out, or using this calculating mind, and from one hand, and being in another place from the other hand, is always creating this motion.
Yes.
That is disturbing.
Right. It will stop that feeling that this is disturbing and that it is tiring to move between that. But first we have to really get rooted in that silent space. And then more and more you become aware even when the activity is there. And where, of course, in the daily life, and especially in a profession like yours, you have to use your mind. You have to think. You have to calculate sometimes. You have to plan something. But more and more you can become aware that in spite of that, that silence is there, undisturbed. And you won't feel so much that you are juggling between two spaces, jumping from one to the other, but learn to remind yourself when you are busy, when you are thinking, to relax in the midst of it. No matter what you're doing, when you remind yourself, relax, then you let go of something and you get already that sense, oh, but the other is also there. It's not one or the other. As long as it feels it's one or the other, then it's a bit disturbing, always jumping from one to another. But as you go on, more and more, you will start to feel that silence is going through also the noise, also the activities, also the mental noise, also the calculating mind. That there, prior to that, is something that is not touched by it, and it's not really absent if we learn to recognize it in spite of the activity.
It's very important.
It's very important, but it is very helpful if you have your periods, if you continue having your periods where you are not active, and get more and more familiar with it, and get rooted in it, and then gradually it's shining more and more also through the time where you are active.
Yes, exactly. Even the feeling that not trying to grasp it in my hand or to grasp it inside of me, because probably it's not belong to me even.
No, it's not belonging to anyone. And actually the movement is rather the opposite. Instead of grasping, is letting go. Relax and let go. It's the better way to be in touch with it than trying to hold it. Holding that doesn't work.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Sridev.
I need to clarify something about the question, who am I? This question has to be asked to the I, the witness of everything, like, for example, witness of the thought, of the feeling. This is what I used to do. Or this question, who am I, have to be asked to the I personality to finally discover that it's made of illusion, of concept, of conditioning. So I'm not sure if I have to ask what I am to this consciousness or what I am to the I personality.
You talk as if there is somebody who can ask somebody else. And as if that question is a question that eventually you will get the answer, that somebody will give the answer to somebody else. This question doesn't have an answer. It's just one way to bring the attention back to that sense of I am, that sense of presence. It's not a question that is being asked somebody or something or someplace. It's a question that simply is a starting point from the mind, because we are in the mind if we are feeling disconnected. So then we are on that mental level, and on that mental level we use that same mind by forming that question, but who am I? Which is a totally unreasonable question for the mind, because why the hell, I know very well who I am, blah, 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 the whole story is there. So putting that whole thing in question helps to detach from that and bring the attention back to that sense of presence. It's not asked from one space to another space, from one or something or somebody. It's just a question in the mind, helping the attention to detach from our fixation, whatever we are busy with, and bring it back to that which makes that experience possible. If for a moment we just don't think and relax, there's that sense of presence that is so totally familiar. Nobody can say, I don't know that, because it's the first, it's the most familiar. Simply, instead of letting it be in its purity, we immediately have the tendency to build the whole story on top of it. And I'm like this, I'm like that, and yesterday I did this, and I was born then, and I grew up, and I know this. And the whole story immediately is put on top, but prior to that, there is that sense of simply being. As long as we are thinking of ourselves as a person, or a body, or a person in a body, then the notions about that self, they keep on changing all the time. When you were a little boy, your feeling of I am this was different than when you were 10 years old, or then when you were 15 years old, or 20 years old, or 25 years old. The ideas kept on changing all the time about the body, about the personality, the emotions, the connections, they kept on changing. But when you were a little boy, or 5 years old, or 10 years old, or 15 years old or 20 years old, and you just say, I, there is that sense of presence, so totally familiar, that is first there. If we just say I without a thought, there's that something that is never really happened, but we most of the time completely overlook. And the question, who am I, is just one of the means you can use to detach the attention from all the activities, from all what we are busy with, whether we are fixing it on the sense perception or the thoughts or the emotions or something, and bring it back to that first sense of presence, which is most best expressed by that sense I am. Not I am this, I am that, but just I am. So the question helps to bring the attention back, and then it's more resting in that sense I am. It's not addressed to something. It's a mind stopper, the question. It's like,
Okay.
like a, hey, shut up, telling the mind, a mind stopper. Who am I? Because to the mind, for the mind, the question is completely irrational. It doesn't make any sense. You can ask for the mind everything else, but not who am I. It's simply a mind stopper, a way of letting go whatever attachment there is at that moment with sense perceptions, with emotions, with thoughts, and bring it back to that sense of presence that is there prior to everything, during everything, after everything, which is there, simply there all the time.
Okay.
And there, everybody will somehow do it a little bit different. There are people who say, no, Ramana said like this, and this is exactly the proper way to do self-inquiry, but there's no such thing. Everybody can find out for themselves exactly how exactly they are doing it, that it really functions, and that is what matters, and not exactly the technique in all its little details, how we are using it. It can get one's own personal flavor, how we go about it. But the point is that simply withdrawing the fixation and bringing the attention back to the root, to the source, to that which makes the experience possible.
This is what I used to do, yes. But recently I listened a satsang, and the master say also the function of this question, who am I, is to make disappear this I. In the sense of to make you realize that the I is an illusion.
The I that we are creating in the mind, with all its splendor and its great heroic history, that is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of presence, which I say now is best expressed by I am, is not an illusion. It's the root. It's the ground out of which everything comes. The I disappears, and yet the I remains. Sometimes Ramana try just to give a bit of sense of what he's talking about was making a difference between the I and the I. Right, but it's not two different I's. It's simply the one is corrupted with all kinds of ideas about it, and the other is pure presence.
Okay. Because when I ask this question, who am I? Finally, the answer is always me, but me that I cannot locate, that have no shape, but the mind doesn't really stop. But it's just I cannot grab this I.
Yeah.
So maybe I am stuck there and I still need something subtle to understand.
It's exactly the thing. As long as you try to grab it, then you think there is one eye who can grab the other eye. then there are two eyes. One is grabbing the other and has it. There's not something that you can have. It's not something that you can understand. It's not something that you can somehow get. It's that which is prior. It's that which makes the whole damn story possible. So just come back to that silent eye as good as you can, and don't try then to grab anything, but just do the opposite. Let go and relax. There's nothing to grab, but let go whatever can be let go. Relax in that. Relax, relax. Come back to that sense of presence and relax.
Okay, so this question of who am I is not essential for self-realization. Maybe I don't need, because I ask this question, I reactivate the mind. Because I have this beliefness that I need this question for self-realization, but maybe not. Maybe just to relax in this silence and that's it.
Right, that belief comes out of the idea that the question has finally an answer. And if you don't go by the question, then you miss the answer. Other practices cannot get you to that answer, but that you are the answer. And so there is no answer. And you can touch that same beingness, that being and that beingness, no matter how. This. Of course, people who are doing it, they like to tell that is the straight way, that is the direct way, that is the one way better than every other way. But this is just the usual human stuff. If it's natural for you, if it's working for you, then it's the best way. And for another, the same thing can be done with a simple thing, like just consciously breathe in, breathe out, relax. And you're right in the same space as the one who is asking, who am I? No, it is not essential. It can be very helpful if you respond to that. But it's not that essentially we have to hold on to that question and eventually to get the answer. And people are a bit fooled here by reading Ramana's story that as a 17-year-old, he just had that experience and thought he's going to die, and then he felt, okay, now this body is dead and I'm still there, but who am I? And with that one inquiry, something totally shifted in his perception. But then people think that's how it has to be. that's what happened in Ramana's story, and it can happen in very, very, very different ways. So, if this is not basically your approach, it's not that you artificially have to now hold on to self-inquiry because this is absolutely essential. Without that, no chance in hell. It's anything that helps you to connect with that sense of presence is the good way. And being in that silence, in that sense of presence, there is nothing to hold on to, nothing to grasp, but just relax, let go, and wait and see what happens.
How long?
As long as it takes.
I hope I don't have to stay 7 years in the cave.
I don't think so. if you desire to do that, then it's a good thing. I really wanted to do that. So then I said that. But otherwise you don't have to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Wish you well.
Thank you. Namah Shivaya.
Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Hello.
Werner?
Hello. It's Andrea.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Andrea.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a similar question. I'm still a bit unclear about this sense of I am.
Yes.
Because, for example, if I have a very strong emotion or a very strong desire, and I think who is experiencing this, in that case, I can feel a very solid I. You know, I can see this I that is feeling the emotion, that is wanting something. But most of the time, if I'm just very relaxed and meditating, there's not this solid thought of I. It's more of a dissolution kind of thing. I would say that instead of presence, it's more absolutely impersonal. But you know, I always hear the instructions say this sense I am, but when I'm relaxed, I cannot find a clear I. And then I ask this question, who am I? And I think that I'm sort of, something gathers that space so that it can answer I. But when the true relaxation is there, there's nothing to answer I. There's nothing to feel personal in any way. But you know what I read is always I am, but I don't find an I, a clear I.
Okay, then never mind about the damn I. Then
Okay.
stay in that impersonal space.
It cannot be that I am too spaced out.
No, it's
or
fine.
like I'm doing something wrong, or
No.
okay.
Stay consciously in that impersonal beingness. And still you're still there, otherwise the question wouldn't rise. And still you can, if any sense of anything comes in it, also there, let go, relax. Instead of looking for an I and hoping to find in that impersonalness your real I, you just stay in that sense of beingness. And so, but as soon as anything approaches, even the quest for the I, just relax.
Okay. So it's okay that I'm not finding this solid I, right? And the solid I that's coming when I have an emotion, it's just illusion, right?
It's a momentary appearance that comes along, is formed by the desire or formed by the emotion that you have. That sense of presence is creating momentarily something solid, but it's not really solid because the next moment it's gone again.
Okay, because I remember watching a YouTube video on self-inquiry by David Gottman, and he's saying that you have to hold on to the I and look at it closely. But yeah, I don't find anything to hold on to, so it's okay.
Then you don't have to search for anything to hold on to. Then
okay.
Just stay in that space as quiet as you can.
Okay.
Don't go to
Thank
sleep
you.
in it, just keep alert.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
something wants to disturb it, relax.
Usually what disturbs is that this seeker comes to look for an eye in that space that it can catch and look at. But
Okay.
yeah, that's what's creating the disturbance in the first place.
Then you let that fellow go when he comes.
Okay. So it's just abide in this impersonal space, no turning, no seeking, no looking, no catching, just
Right.
abiding there?
Abide there.
Okay.
And wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Relax in it. Don't start to think you have to do something in it.
Hmm.
Be open.
Yeah, because I think, sorry?
Open, receptive, alert,
Hmm.
and relaxed.
Okay. Yes, because I think that a small effort is required to reach that perspective, right? A small effort to release other thought, but once you're there, you let go. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wish you well. Good luck with it.
Thanks.
Hello,
Hello,
Werner.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Sorry?
Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I can see you.
Okay. I have one more practical question.
Yeah.
When I feel breath in and breath out, I don't say who am I, but I use other words inside me. And when I breath in, I tell inside me in. When I breath out, I say inside me out. And sometimes I say inside me my well-being or my rootedness. These words help me to bring my attention to the present. Is it okay that I use these phrases?
You're asking whether it's all right to use these words.
Yes, is it okay that I use these words in my meditation?
Anything that helps you is right. And you can very well totally create your own way how you are going about it. It's not that we have to somehow find a classical way that is strictly prescribed. That's the way to go about it. They are there as blueprints, as helps that we can get inspiration. And finally, each one is learning to go their own way about it. And if it helps to connect, and be in the present and relax in that presence, then you do whatever you like. You use whatever words you like. It's not that some words are holy enough to use and others are not holy enough.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You can develop that confidence in yourself, that you feel yourself when something is doing good and works, that you have also the confidence that it's fine, and don't handicap you by thinking maybe it's not good to do so. If you feel it works, if you feel it connects, then you can have the confidence that it's fine. Your confidence in yourself, that you have that intuition that brought it about to try, and it's good to do so.
Okay. Thank you very much, Werner.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Kailas.
Yeah. How are you?
Oh, quite fine. And you are back in your hometown?
No, thank God. No, I'm not. I escaped
Yeah.
6 weeks ago, and I'm in Turkey.
Oh,
Actually,
you're in Turkey.
I'm on the Mediterranean coast, and I'm actually in a 5-star hotel.
Oh,
And none of it is my doing. I've been invited.
yeah.
So, yeah, and basically, I wanted to ask you about hope and hopelessness.
Yeah.
And of course, this touches again on the elephant in the room that seems to come up almost every week. This whole Corona story, obviously, that affects everybody, whether we want to face it or not, whether we want to talk about it or not. So essentially, I arrived here in Turkey 6 weeks ago, and since then I've been very happy to be here. I'm in a fabulous place, really. But before that, for 15 weeks, I was stuck in my so-called hometown, Singapore, in what for me was really pretty miserable conditions. I was living in a small apartment, with my mother's apartment on the 15th floor of a 20-story building, and when you look out the window, there's only another 40-story building directly in front. I could hardly see the sky. It felt like it was a prison-like existence, really, for me. And I was getting to the point where I was really, really miserable and feeling really hopeless, especially coming into May, because by the month of May, I had already been there for 2 months.
Oh.
And normally I'm never there for more than 10 days or 2 weeks at a time. So I had already been there for 2 whole months in these conditions. No nature, can't even see the sky. And the big thing was there was no idea even when this would end.
Yeah.
Because, it was in lockdown, and as you know, most countries were closed and still are closed. Actually, most borders are still closed. Most flights are still grounded. So I was in a situation of really complete despair and hopelessness. And to be honest, I even started Googling painless suicide. I doubt if I would have taken the step, but then, how long can each person be pushed, before they finally take this step, when they are in a situation of complete despair and hopelessness.
Yeah.
So then, fortunately, when it got to the month of June, it looked like something was opening up. I thought, okay, maybe, some countries in the south of Europe looked like they were going to open for the summer. Greece, Italy, Spain, and then Turkey opened up. So, I jumped at the opportunity. I love Turkey anyway. So in the beginning of July, I managed to get a flight and came here. So since then, my life has really swung from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Like really from prison to paradise, really, in 24 hours. And it was really the hope that kept me going. And maybe it's the same for many other people as well. But what I wanted to say was actually, one of my teachers is not a big fan of hope. So he says hope takes your attention away from the present moment and into an imaginary future, which you don't even know is going to happen or not. And then on top of that, hope can really set you up for a major disappointment if what you're hoping for doesn't happen. So how do you see that?
If you are immersed in the self, in your own well-being, then there is no question of hope and hopelessness. So if people say, then don't hold on to hope, because it's not the ultimate, it's not the self. So what's the point? In that, when you are one with that consciously, then the question doesn't rise. You're not being hopeless, you don't need to have hope. But if we are in a space where we can get discouraged, and through this discouragement somehow being pulled more and more and more in a dark space, then it's very, very useful to develop hope. It's nothing wrong. I mean, people survive things because they can hold on to hope one day to get out of it, that the events may turn again, or even that they just themselves become stronger, that they can deal with it. If that hope is not there, then many people, they would completely collapse. So it's not any wrong holding on to hope and using hope to get yourself out of bad situations. That's I know that especially in the modern Advaita teaching, teachers always very quickly deny everything, that you cannot say it's the absolute, but it's still there in your relative life. And I mean, it's not that now suddenly whole humanity is immersed in the absolute and no problem is there. As long as all this human stuff is going on and people find themselves confronted with difficult situations, and all these reactions are there, and many of them destructive, then we can very well work on that level, on the level where the problem is, and shift from negative emotions that pull you more and more into darkness, into emotions that help you, that strengthen you, that encourage you to get out of the dark hole. This is perfectly valid. I mean, without hope, it's a hopeless story. Yeah. And then you can also use that hope. I mean, in my life, the one thing that was really nagging me the most eventually at a certain point was that I had that idea of I want enlightenment, and felt more and more depressed about it instead of getting lifted up. That I want something, had my ideas what it should be, and not getting what I want, and getting more and more miserable about it. And there I kept on sometimes reminding me, come on, just go on, one day all this will be over. And just that hope that it gave me then at that time helped me to simply continue and go through it. There's no point then at that moment say it's not the ultimate, but you have to deal with the situation at hand. And if the situation is so overcome by negative, destructive emotions, then we have to deal on that level, and hope is like a ray of sunlight that helps you to get out of dark places. It's nonsense to say that it's not helpful. It's so helpful for many people in many situations.
Yeah.
At the same time, we can be hope, can kindle that hope without fixing too much our personal agenda on top, and fixing too much how exactly it has to turn out, because if we're doing that, then of course most of the time we are in for disappointments, because situations have not the tendency to exactly turn out as we are wanting them and planning them.
Yeah.
But just the general hope that in a bad situation you can come out of it and it can turn more positive and become again more light and more expansive and more joyous. That hope is the one thing that will help you to go on. So don't look negative at hope. Hope is a ray of sun that helps.
Yeah, it was hope that kept me going. Finally, otherwise I would have completely given up, and there's really no reason to go on. Actually, with just being stuck in a place where I didn't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So so it was really the hope that finally made me take the concrete step to get out of there when I could find the means, and now I'm really very happy. Yeah.
Very
So
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have to
yeah.
undervalue the action of hope in the whole situation, or rather, as often I have heard this in the Advaitic teaching, that they gave it a very negative taste. That hope, no good. If you hope, you get out of the present, you look to the future, you lose the self. Okay, if in that situation you just can inquire about who is experiencing that and let everything go, then you don't need any hope, and you are not hopeless. But as long as the situation is capable of pulling us in a hopelessness, then don't, out of philosophical reason, push away hope, but in contrary, encourage it and hold on to it and use it as a driving force to change your situation again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Werner.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Yeah, great to talk to you.
If there is not immediately somebody coming in with a question, then I talk about the question Marie wrote me. Marie, the one who is preparing clips of the January satsangs of this year, which I post on YouTube. And most probably she's not here because it's 3 o'clock in the morning there, where she is. But the question is, how to deal with strong emotional patterns, mental patterns that come up and disturb us. Is it good to give attention to them, maybe analyze them, work with them, or should we just ignore them and try to go straight to the essence, straight to the self? Because on one hand, the idea is there, if you connect with the self, if you get rooted in the self, all this mental stuff is dropping off anyhow, all by itself. But on the other hand, as long as these mental patterns are there, they are disturbing us from being rooted in the self. Now, what to do with it? On one hand, let's not waste the time getting involved with all this mental stuff, and on the other hand, but we have to somehow deal with that mental stuff, otherwise you cannot go beyond it. It's not that we have to go and dig in the dirt and analyze and look, is there something more that there is hanging in my subconscious? something more that we have to analyze and get rid of. Basically, just be here, be now, connect with that silence as good as you can. But if there are then mental patterns that come always in and disturb us and pull the attention away from that, the same kind of things that repeat themselves. The scenario is slightly changing, but yet the patterns just repeat themselves, how we are acting, how we are reacting, and how we are creating problems and tensions in our life. If we see those patterns, then definitely it's worth the trouble to give attention to them. If we ignore them, then they just keep going. And eventually, if we want peace, we have to get rid of them. It's not that we have to try to figure out whatever damn little tendency is maybe hidden in a corner of our subconscious, but that those things that simply are there, often day after day after day, creating troubles, creating tensions, we have to somehow learn to deal with them in such a way that they stop having power over us. So it's worth the trouble to see, to watch the mechanism of that, see what it is doing, see how it comes in, learn to observe what is happening on the physical level, on the energetic level, when we are in the midst of the action of those tendencies, when we are being pushed in acting and reacting in ways that we don't really want to, but simply do so out of habit. And by observing them in that way, then we can start to relax. And by being aware what's happening, even if it's still happening, then the old habit, the old tendency is not strengthened. But being aware what's going on and learning to relax in the middle is helping to let them go. Their power is reducing. If we go on about the same thing again and again in this manner, then they're losing their power and eventually they are just memories. They cannot more force us to act or react in ways that we don't want to act. But basically connect with that sense of presence. Be here, be now, timeless. And relax in that. At peace, at ease, in that silence. Or in that sense, as Andrea has expressed it, in that impersonal sense of being, beingness. Just be connected with that as good as you can, but then our tendencies, they come all by themselves and they push us out of it. And there, those that do that again and again, don't try to push them away and push them again down in the subconscious, but accept, okay, there is some more work needed. And if I postpone it, then I'm doing just that. I postpone it and we'll have to do it later. We don't have to go and look for them. We don't have to go and dig in the dirt. There, but if we start to analyze, then maybe we have to analyze for a few lifetimes. And she's right, it's a jungle. And if we just get lost in that jungle, then we can go on and on and on, and we find always new stuff that also has happened and that also has left a trace and that also has still reactions, and we can go on and on and on and on. Sometimes if we deal with something that is very strong, that keeps us disturbing us again and again, and we work on that particular thing, then we work on a whole field, and if we get free of that particular pattern, then maybe a whole field drops, and we don't have to go after every damn little thing that was also in that field. We don't have to look for those tendencies. Somehow we can find them and kill them. Just be here, be now, and they come all by themselves and disturb that peace, disturb the integrity, they disturb the balance, the harmony, and those that keep on coming back and disturbing, then we can surrender to the fact, okay, they are there, they have power, I have to take care of them, I have to confront them. If we confront them, if we look at them in a detached way, then they lose their power and we can get rid of them, can let them go. So I hope, Marie, your answer is there. I see somebody would like to come in. I think it wasn't intentional. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Klaus. How are
Hi.
you now?
We are good. I think it's been good to hear today you talking about the different parts of the teachings today, because it's especially about hope, and also all the teachings in the Advaita, because it can actually become a dualism in those teachings, that they are not allowing something to be as it truly is. So it's good. And I was wondering about if you could say something about maybe like a life purpose, or because I feel like for myself, I have always wanted to help people, and after I came on to understand these teachings, it's been like holding me back, because I'm afraid to like not telling the truth to people about how things are working. So it's like it's stopping. And now I've written my master thesis. It is done, and a lot of times I've helped football players to get rid of anxiety and to help them get into the flow again. And it is a work that gives me a lot of joy. And I had a talk also with a player now who has really strong social anxiety. It's like he's so afraid that he cannot even talk in the phone because he's afraid about talking to new people. And I just talked with him, and now he's just going out with new people, fishing and doing a lot of things. So something is happening with just speaking to him about the things that I have picked up. But I've been like very afraid to like do this because of the ego, or because of my own egoistic drive of this. But I also see back that this drive for helping people has always been there, all of the time, actually.
Right. And basically it's a good drive. But of course, you're right, as long as we are functioning from the level of the personality, from the level of the ego, then the ego will mix color, whatever we are doing, even when we are doing good things. That doesn't mean it should handicap you to do those things. by all means go and do those things. But you can be alert and see, oh, there I'm taking myself again too important. I'm taking myself, taking too serious. And there you can work on it. But by not doing what is natural for you, it's not that because of that you are getting rid of that tendency to mix the ego in. It's simply there in everybody. And even in our good things that we are doing, there is always so much self-interest in that if we are not careful. And if you are alert, then watch it. And when it's creeping up and coming in, then you can observe it and let go as good as you can. But that should not, the conclusion should not be that you should not do those things that come natural to you. That's a natural expression for you. But somehow or other, you have to spend your time. Then,
yeah, that's true.
Then you can as well do it in a creative way, in a way that brings joy to you, and if it helps others, so much the better. Simply there you can be alert that it's not going to the head and think I'm a very good guy, and after all I have been helping this one and that one after all.
Yeah.
Great of me to do that.
Yeah.
But if it's a natural expression for you and a way that you like to spend your time with, then by all means continue. Don't handicap it by thinking, but is it right to do so? Am I maybe not truthful and so like that? After that, it's not that you are more enlightened because of that, but you just cripple your creativity when you let yourself be handicapped like this.
Yeah.
It's always good to be alert, because the ego always wants to creep in a subtle, sneaky way. But that doesn't mean we should avoid what is natural for us to do. By all means, jump in the midst of it.
Make mistakes and play with it and take it fully as it is.
It's much better that we full-heartedly jump for things and sometimes do foolish things than think, oh, maybe it's wrong and maybe I'm making a mistake doing that, and finally you're not doing anything, but you feel totally frustrated and dissatisfied. It's much better to do some foolish things and do them fully on full-heartedly, and then you'll are richer for the experience and you learn from it.
Yeah, that's true. Just feel like there's, if it's just a sense or is something in it, but it feels like something is going more naturally than other things. And
yes, sure.
Like in
For one person, what you are doing is very natural. For somebody else, this would be very unnatural, and they may not simply do it because they think it's a good thing to do, but naturally they rather would be a postman. And if they naturally want to be a postman, then to be a postman is the best thing to do. Or a carpenter.
It is simple. It's just we get these ideas about what we should do, and then that it's more suitable or it's correct or some fixed idea comes in and disturb that.
Yeah, and once we get spiritual, then we have a lot of doubts whether anything is good to do. No, it should not result like this. Then no matter where you find yourself, where you're expressing yourself in your most natural way, that's the right place, and there you can become more alert, and that is spiritual and not a certain particular way how to spend your time.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much, Werner.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There's, in this context, another question from Farouk. He doesn't like to talk here in public, so it's perfectly all right. He writes me the question. He says that he often teachers say that we need challenges. The challenges in life, they make us strong. And it's correct. Difficult situations, they have the tendency to make us stronger. And especially if we learn not to be overwhelmed by them, that we can also in difficult situations keep our cool, remain in touch with reality and relaxed, then that much more challenging situations make us stronger. Now his question is, but I have the tendency to make my life easy. I have a lot of time, a lot of solitude, and then am I escaping by not looking for a job? Should I, in a way, should I make my life more complicated? And obviously, it seems arranged in such a way that you can make your life simple, that you are not forced to look for a job. So you don't have to think that you have to artificially create challenges, external challenges in your life, that you have to make your life more difficult, that you have to make your life more complicated. Basically, the tendency is a good one, to simplify our life. Then it's disturbing less and we have more time for introversion. Simply be alert that you don't get lazy in it. That somehow you are you stop being alert. Be aware that okay, if I have now the possibility that my life is simple, that I don't have to face big challenges, then let me make the best use of it. Since I have less distractions, then I can use my time to be here now, at ease, at peace. That doesn't mean that what I'm saying that you should now start a terrible ascetic practice and, and put yourself in tensions like this. No, by all means, relax, be at ease, and be alert, and be open. And don't handicap it by thinking that maybe I should make it more complicated, because that grace that is allowing you to to have a life that is easy, be at ease in it, may go away if you question it all the time. And your life will start to become more complicated without your doing it. No, we don't have to run away from challenges, but we don't have to run after challenges. Just go from day to day in your life as it is unfolding in your destiny, as it is natural to you. And no matter whether you have easy circumstances or whether you have difficult circumstances, what counts is that you learn to be alert here, now, that you connect. In difficult situations, it's easier to forget about it and be completely absorbed in the situation. But then in easy situations, the temptation is not so much to get so totally absorbed in what is happening, but that there is a certain laziness developing, that we are getting into a mood that we are rather half asleep than really awake and alive in the present. So if one has that grace that life is nice and easy without many problems, don't question it. Accept it as a grace of God, but then that's God's gift to you, and your gift to God is that you make the use of it, that you learn to be alert. That doesn't mean full of tension, alert and relaxed, but be here and now and connect. For this we are here, and this is the greatest thing that you can do. And if it's necessary that in your life you have to face more difficult challenges, don't worry, they will come all by themselves. Don't ask too much for them, otherwise you may get more that is really needed. And don't have that doubt that maybe you should create difficulties, or you should do this or should do that to have more challenges. It's simply a handicapper that is not necessary. It's a sabotaging oneself, again, on the level of the mind, because we have heard certain things in teachings and then think, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Being consciously here now, that is doing the right thing. And then how our life is unfolding, let it unfold. You can give in creatively your life, your consciousness, your energy, but accept as it comes. And since it's not a problem most of the time, the external circumstances, then don't create a problem. Don't make it into a problem. Accept that it's nice and easy, that you have more time to just be consciously here, consciously now, and relax in it. Okay, I hope your question is answered, Farouk. Is there anybody else who would like to come in, talk about something? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Dayal.
I find out that very important for me to meditate in very straight position, yeah, like a Buddha. But I have a habit for many years, little bit went down, yeah, a little bit my neck went down, and I sitting, but I trying to keep on be very straight, but it doesn't work. What do you think about how to get straight position and about importance of it?
You cannot make a general statement that is true for everybody, because people are different, their bodies are different. I would say generally, as a rule of thumb, it is helpful to have a reasonably straight position, because it keeps you more alert, it keeps you more awake. It's easier if you are sitting in an easy chair, leaning like this, it's easier to just dream away. But then some people, they can not easily sit straight. And I would say for them, don't torture yourself. Don't torture yourself that now, no matter what the cost, you have to force yourself to sit in a completely straight posture. Then sit at ease, and then you can think of something else. But if it's coming to you easily to sit straight, and you have already experience that if you tell yourself, if you catch yourself when you sit a bit like this, that you put yourself straight again, it's easier to be alert and it's not difficult for you to do, then by all means continue to remind yourself to sit straight in meditation without getting too tense about it, straight and relaxed. Because
Okay, we'll keep on trying.
we can very well relax when we are straight, but you don't have to torture yourself. not all cramped up straight, simply to be straight, that you get in more and more cramped. Find a reasonable middle way. Remind yourself to straighten up, but at the same time relax.
Okay, we'll try.
Yes, that's a good way to go about it. Is there anybody else who would like to talk?
Werner,
Hello.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome. Hello. What's your name again?
My name is Rinat.
Rinat, yes. Rinat.
And I thank you for all your teaching. I have a question. Could you speak with us about death and about the emotions that come with it?
With, am I understanding you correctly? Death, dying.
Dying, yeah.
Death.
Not about dying yourself, but about people who die, people you love that are dying.
Yes, so you are rather wanting to know about those who are not dying, their emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once, like 2 years ago, when I was in your satsanga, you spoke about death and you were saying that there's nothing to be afraid of, and you gave us a very interesting explanation about life and death.
Yes.
But I wonder, it made a lot of sense, but now that I'm dealing with it, I keep wondering what to do with my feelings.
Yes, right. When I have been talking about dying there, I was talking about dying from the standpoint of the one who gets out. There is
no, actually, you were speaking about the feeling of someone who had to let go of her loved one.
Yeah. But right, the emotions of those who are staying back, that's quite a second chapter. The one who is dying is well off. That's fine. There is nothing to be afraid of. But those who stay back, of course, it has an emotional effect. If you are close to somebody, they are dying or they have died, or you see they are close to dying, naturally you will have emotional reactions to that. If somebody who is close and they are getting closer to death, and you see that maybe you see how they are struggling, how they are suffering physically, then try not to make yourself feel miserable about it, because then when you connect with them and you feel all bad about it, then you send them more negative emotions and they have it even more difficult. So the best you can do with your emotions, you see your emotions and you see the sadness that is there for somebody is about to leave, but at the same time when you watch that emotion of sadness, then you see that, okay, it's an emotion, it's coming, it has peaks, it's going, but here now is something that is not touched by it. And get in touch with that. And when you connect with the person that is in the situation, that may be having a very difficult situation, and you come in contact with them, but you are in touch with yourself, then you can bring something very nice and something very beautiful in their story that can be very helpful for them, that it's becoming easier to let go, easier to approach the moment that they leave this world. Of course, the tendency is there that we start to complain, lament, and oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. But if you catch yourself doing that, then you also have a good look at it, and then you see every time we slip into that, the first moment we may have been thinking of the other person, but after that we slip already into feeling sorry for ourselves, that I have to confront this situation, that my beloved one is in this situation. Then suddenly out of the feeling for the other, when we are getting into that complaining mood. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Because there was a moment that there was a bad connection. Okay. When we come into that complaining moment, there you can see actually I'm slipping away and just thinking about myself and feel sorry for myself. And there you can observe that and learn not to do that, but bring your attention back to that sense of well-being that is there no matter what is happening. You're doing a service to yourself, and you're doing a service to the person that is about to die. If you connect with that person and you make peace with in yourself, then you helping yourself and you helping that other person most. Something in the mind has the tendency to tell us, but I mean, I have to feel miserable. If my friend is not in a good condition, it's ethical to feel miserable about it. I have to, because if I feel good, something is wrong with me. But this is wrong. This is the mind. This is the society who has somehow brainwashed us wrongly. We never have to make ourselves miserable. There is nothing noble about it. There is nothing great about it if we make ourselves miserable. If we confront suffering, especially of a loved one, and then in spite of that, you can connect with yourself and you become aware here now there is something beautiful in yourself, totally unaffected by anything that is happening, then you are doing the best thing that you can possibly do for yourself and for the others. Don't encourage the mind to hold on to negative emotions. But if sadness is coming, sadness in itself is not a negative emotion. If we don't let the sadness pull us into a dark space, there's nothing wrong with sadness. Then if somebody who is very close has died, naturally there comes the feeling of sadness. But if we are not falling into that mood of feeling sorry for ourselves and developing self-pity, then that sadness, accepting the sadness, observing the sadness, how it is functioning, how it really feels physically, energetically, emotionally, intellectually, then the experience of sadness can be something very beautiful and expansive. It doesn't make us miserable. It's simply when we fall into that trap of feeling sorry about ourselves. Then, of course, the experience becomes small and small, and there I'm going round and round, and poor me, poor me, poor me. And if we are catching ourselves doing that, then just, I'm doing that. There is nothing noble, there is nothing moral in doing that. It's not my duty to lament like that and make myself miserable. My duty is to bring the attention back to the self, to that beautiful space of existence, and be aware from that level what is happening. And then we are bringing something lightful, something beautiful in a situation where we otherwise, when we simply go on lamenting, actually bring down darkness, more darkness, unnecessarily.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see we have been on it for 1.5 hours. If anybody would like to come in, has something they really would like to talk about, you're welcome to do so now. Or if that is not happening soon, I'm going to close for today.
Werner,
Yes? Hello.
I have one more quick question. Hi.
Yes, you are welcome.
If one is in the path of practicing, like you advise to mainly feel this sense of I am and look towards the source, would you recommend to as well do some practice of shamatha and anapanasati to sharpen the mind, or would you say to drop everything and only focus in this?
If you feel like doing those practices, if you feel a resonance in your heart, then by all means, do also those practices. We don't necessarily need to do them, but if we feel attracted to these kind of practices and you resonate, then don't say, oh, no, I should only do the other thing. You can very well do whatever practice you feel is helping you to connect, is lifting you, your energy, is lifting your spirit. Yeah. It's perfectly valid.
Okay, and can these practices be more helpful, like make the mind somehow more serviceable, more sharp, more relaxed? Is it of benefit?
Yes, they can. If you do it with the right attitude, if you do it simply out of the idea, I have to do this kind of stuff, then it's not helpful.
Yeah, of
Otherwise,
course.
yes. That's the point of the practices, that they help us to let go of unnecessarily ballast in the mind, and so the mind is getting lighter and shorter.
Okay. And they have to be one or the other, right? Because I found just yesterday I was trying to go back to a practice of anapanasati, and I was somehow going out of the attention in the breath and starting to watch the one that was watching the breath. But I guess then it's like mixing things, right? It's better to either put the attention in the breath or to be looking backwards, or
they are not really contradictions.
It got to a point where they mix, but then I'm not sure if I'm making a mash that I should not be making, or
it's nothing wrong if it comes naturally. I mean, if you watch your breath and you relax in it, then the idea of watching the breath more and more disappears, and it's just being watchful, and you're coming to that space that you were describing before, which is impersonal.
Yes. Okay. So I should not force myself into the breath when this happens?
No, you don't have to force yourself back into the breath when this happens.
Because I feel after some point focusing in one thing, there comes this awareness of, like you say, of watchfulness. So it's good to sort of slip into that.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You can do that. You can start out with just watching the breath, and if that somehow drops off, then let it drop off. But don't think now, okay, now I have to do for that much time watching the breath, and then I should drop it. If it still feels natural to keep on watching the breath, then you keep just watching the breath for your whole sitting time. But if you feel, if it's naturally starting to drop off and your attention shifts, then let it happen.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Shall we stop for today? It seems nobody wants to immediately ask a question. So I'm going to stop the recording.